Today, we're going to be looking at 10 players who could be going off on week 3, going to the moon in fantasy football. We're going to look at their game scripts, advanced analytics for these projections. But before we dig in, drop your start-sit questions in the comment section below. I will answer all of them later tonight. Help answer a few other questions to get you that good juju going into the week, to get that lady luck on your side. Also, before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button right now because we're dropping content every day. Help me out with the waiver wire. Help me out setting lineups, looking at the projections. I did the must-start video where I covered every single game, every single player for this week. I will do it again next week and every single week for eternity. Click that button. Stop missing out. Not going anywhere. First player here about to go ham. About to go off. Tet McMillan, T-Mac. And we got some DBs out. AJ Terrell out hamstring. We got another one on the mend on the queue. 5.5 spread, 43.5 over under. 19 targets in 2 games. We're getting all the work. We're getting deep targets downfield. And we had this projected going into the season during his rookie year, going into the draft with how good he is downfield with ball skills, how he breaks off routes. We're not surprised that we're hitting here. 11 points, 16. This is a game where the Falcons got some firepower, and they may have to push this game script. And if this game script gets pushed, T-Mac's getting some balls downfield. T-Mac's getting it. 100 yards last week. Second game in his career. We're already starting to get off the runway. We're already starting to take flight. This is a matchup here where we got a banged-up secondary, and you got some firepower on the other end. We have the over-under at 43.5. Like half the over-unders this week is at 43.5 because you do not know how a lot of these game scripts are going to break out, especially what we're seeing here with the Panthers and what we're seeing here with Bryce Young and everything. But he's also, whether they're behind, whether they haven't really been ahead, but in neutral game script, which has been short-lived, they've been looking at T-Mac. And we can take this back to the preseason. Dalton, Bryce Young, whenever he's covered, he still gets the targets. He gets the targets when he's not supposed to get the targets. We see this time in and time out. This is a good matchup here because you got flow on both sides of the ball. You got a wide receiver who's getting a lot of targets deep downfield, and you got a banged-up secondary. Next up, Brian Thomas Jr. Everybody was scared of Brian Thomas Jr. going into this week. 9 fantasy points week 1, 8.9 after week 2. Those were some weird game scripts. Carolina game, Bengals game on the road. But against the Texans, in each game, 75-plus yards and a touchdown catch against the Texans last year. Last year was his rookie season, so we don't have an extra year on top of that. So every game against the Texans, you're expecting him to get 75-plus yards and a TD. That's what he's been doing this whole time. 2-game sample. But you're looking at this and what the Texans are allowing here. 23.1 PPR fantasy points to Puka Nacua. Devontae Adams had 9.1, but he had 8 targets in that matchup. They were pushing the pace in the air. You're looking at Mecca Buka and also Mike Evans. Between them, they had 18 targets, both of them hitting double digits in PPR fantasy production. And Brian Thomas Jr. is ready to rock and roll and get it downfield. He's just ready to rock and roll. And you're looking at targets here, 7 and 12. 5 balls caught on that high of targets. 5 balls caught on that high of targets ain't supposed to happen. It just ain't supposed to happen. You got a 43.5 over-under like the other games. They do not know how this game script's going to break because you do not know what version of C.J. Stroud or Trevor Lawrence you're going to get. And there's 4 different versions of quarterbacks here. Bad version of both, so there's 2. And then good version of both, which is another 2. About 4 different categories of quarterbacks here that you could be seeing mixed matched together. Whether it's a bad version of Trevor Lawrence, I think we can still push this. Brian Thomas Jr. is in a great position to cash here this week. Travis Hunter hasn't been hitting. He hasn't been separating. He's separating scores. Over at Fantasy Data, over at Fantasy Profiler, hasn't really been hitting. He's going to be getting the volume. He's got good history in this matchup. Saints, Seahawks. Zach Charbonnet is doubtful. So even if he does play, he's probably going to be reeled in. You got a 41.5 over-under, and teams are trying to run on the Saints. James Conner, 14.4 fantasy points. He also had 4 targets in that matchup. Christian McCaffrey, 7 targets. You expect that out of him. They are trying to move it with the running backs on the Saints. They're going to do this here with Kenneth Walker. He's also going to be getting targets out of the backfield. Last year, he was targeted a little bit heavier. Only 4 targets so far in the season. He's going to get some of those Charbonnet targets. I know Helani could be sneaking in a little bit of work. But we're looking at a Kenneth Walker here that had a 40% snap share and a 35% snap share. So him pushing roughly 80 in this game with the carries that he's getting, and after a game where he blew up against the Steelers, 8 yards a carry, 105 yards, earned more touches, earned more workload. And if you can get pushback from Spencer Rattler, if he can connect downfield, if he can make somewhat of a game out of this, you look at the spread at 7.5 and a low over-under, then you might be getting good work out of Kenneth Walker in the passing game, but also a lot of touches as they ground it out and ground and pound it. This is a favorable matchup here this week for Kenneth Walker. George Pickens. If there's ever a time you're going to start him, it would be a matchup like this with a 50.5 over-under. Last week, the Bears got torched by Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams. J-Mo scored 18.8. He had that big play. Who's getting the deep targets downfield for the Cowboys in this matchup? When things break, when things start to explode, when this game script looks the way Vegas is trying to say it, as a high-scoring, high-paced game, it's George Pickens. And if you're not going to start him this week, then you're never going to start him at all. Then you need to, get rid of him. Next week is the Micah Parsons revenge game. And then you got the Jets on the road. Then you got Carolina on the road, which could be all right. So you're looking at George Pickens. Now's the time to do it. And if you're not going to do it now, you better offload him now. If you're not thinking about starting him now, you better offload him. Because you got some rough games coming up. That Carolina game could be all right. It could be rough, too, if they get ahead on the Panthers. We've seen that with some of the wide receivers. Now you're looking at this. There's a very advantageous matchup. Cowboys on the road, which means Caleb Williams is at home. So Caleb Williams, better optimum game script for him being at home in a game with a high projected point total here of 50.5 by Vegas. George Pickens, I like him this week. I like Rome Odunze, too. I like Rome Odunze a lot. He's getting 10 targets a game. He's got an 8 out of 12.75, so he's getting a lot of targets, and he's also getting deep targets downfield, and he's running on all the routes, 100% route participation rate. So we're in a game with a 50.5 projected point total against a defense that is soft against wide receivers. Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson ate him up last week. The Philly game was but this is a defense we know that's sus coming in. Lost to Michael Parsons. Cowboys defense give up big plays. Rome Odunze, all his targets are deep, double-digit yards downfield. That's the travel distance of the ball going downfield to the wide receiver. The deeper, the more points, because the ball's going further downfield, which is more yards, more fantasy points, and you're getting 10 targets a game, 11 targets week 2, 9 targets week 1 against Minnesota in a weird game script. Now you got Dallas, you're at home, you're a home dog, and now you're looking at routes ran. You're running almost 40 routes a game, and you got a 50.5 projected point total by Vegas. So you're going to be pushing around 40 routes in this game. There's going to be a lot of opportunity. J-Mo, 53.5 over-under. Look at my process here. I am attacking the big games. And like George Pickens, if you're not going to start J-Mo this week, you might as well unload, because this is a game script that should be flying. And you're looking at the Buffalo game, and you're looking at that matchup where it went both ways in the scoring. And if you catch that, even if you hit the under, it's still a high projected point total. If you hit 45 total points instead of 53.5, that's still a high point total for the week. It's hard to whiff on this. Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to get the work. We know this. He's getting 4.5 targets a game, 17.7 route participation rate. He's out there on every single route with 100%. Every single drop back, J-Mo is running a route, and all of them are deep. He brings in a deep ball, Keon Coleman style. That could be a splash play. I'm rolling J-Mo. I'm rolling this matchup, especially with Zay Flowers. Similar situation. In his first game of the season, he went off against Buffalo. He went off. 9 targets, 7 catches, 143 yards, and a touchdown. this could be roughly similar. This team's not egregious in fantasy production against wide receivers. Odunze did go off. They're allowing deep targets downfield. You're seeing Zay Flowers get an 8 out of 11.25. It's increasing a little bit each year. 10 targets a game. He's getting volume there. He's getting a lot of volume in this matchup. This team's semi-good against the run game. So Derrick Henry, they're going to pick and choose their spots a little bit more. I expect him to go off, though. I think this is a great matchup for Zay Flowers. I'm chasing him. I think he's going to the moon. Jordan Mason might go moondoggy this week. Look at the snap shares, 56.3, 46.6 between him and Aaron Jones. He was already leading it. Aaron Jones was getting work in the passing game, but he can still get some targets in the flat, so he might get more than 3 targets in this game. But with Carson Wentz at quarterback, with what we're seeing now, the Bengals allowing 17.3 PPR fantasy points to Sampson, 16.9 to ETN, Basil Tootin had some run. You're looking at a running back here that might get so much workload. He's so easy to hit 10 to 12 fantasy points. Crosses the goal line, you got something. He's getting enough work here. 56.3% snap share, 62.2% opportunity share. He's also due to score a touchdown. He's got Jake Browning against him instead of Joe Burrow. He threw 3 picks last week. He throws 3 picks this week. They're going to be in advantageous situations. And what if Carson Wentz, since he's a veteran, versus second-year kind of rookie quarterback J.J. McCarthy, actually makes his offense look a little better, which is in the realm of possibilities. In the realm of possibilities. He's done it before. I never really liked him, but he's done it before. Carson Wentz, he's got Justin Jefferson. He's got Hawk. Mason hit it big with the Niners last week. I look for him to do big things. Tyler Warren, he's off the injury report. You are starting him. And I think when you look at him at tight end, you're looking at a tight end here that's running a 92% route participation rate. So pretty much every single drop back, he's out there. He's running 30 routes per game. He's getting a lot of opportunity. This is a game script I do not expect it to break, but I expect him to be out there. I looked at the practice clips from yesterday. He looks like he's going to be fine. You're looking at the Titans versus tight ends. You got to take context with that. That Denver game was weird. Bo Nix came out throwing 2 picks in the beginning. That team wasn't firing in the beginning of that matchup. Troy Franklin has been sniping some of the short targets. You're looking at the Rams. Just Devonta Adams and Puka's getting the targets out of that offense. It should be like that. Now you're looking at Tyler Warren. He's going to be heavily involved. They got 4 good wide receivers. Danny Dimes is facilitating. He's going to facilitate to Tyler Warren. I think we're good to go. I think you're going to be looking at him coming off the injury report, feeling like he's a little sus. I think we're going to get a touchdown. We haven't scored yet. I think we're going to get our first touchdown this week. Now you're looking at Patriots versus Steelers. Very interesting matchup here. And the Steelers are giving up fantasy points in droves to the running back. Kenneth Walker went off last week. Breece Hall the week prior. They know this. They're going to use these running backs. Ramondre Stevenson should be a solid flex this week, a flex gamble. And I think Hendo is your shotgun play. I think Hendo's got a good opportunity to go off. You're looking at the opportunity share, 52% to 32% with Hendo losing that battle to Steve-O. But Steve-O here will grind out the tough yards. Might get the score in the run game. This team does not have a rushing touchdown between the two yet, so they're also due for that. I'm also looking for Hendo to blast off on any given point. The big catch downfield by Steve-O last week was worked with Hendo going into that game. That means absolutely nothing, but it also means that there's game planning with Hendo a little bit, and this is a matchup where they can explore these running backs a little bit more. They know that they're giving points, they're giving yards to these running backs. To get these fantasy points, you got to get yards and touchdowns and catches. They know these running backs are doing this to the Steelers. This is easy data to have, and they're going to be doing this. They're going to attempt to road dog the Steelers with these running backs. I like them both this week. We're rolling into week 3. Drop your start-sit questions, comment section below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. One thing for watching. Catch you on the next video.